Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted greater peace in your life, then do we have the Way of Effortless Mindfulness show for you. Today I'll be talking with Loch Kelly, director of the Open-Hearted Awareness Institute, licensed psychotherapist, mindfulness expert, and the author of a beautiful book on letting go, The Way of Effortless Mindfulness. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about a revolutionary guide to an awakened life. That, plus we'll talk about hockey games and junior high, Quaker meetings and Zen retreats, skygazing and Om Sweet Om, witness protection programs and Star Trek Spock, and what in the world a kitty named Duffy has to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Loch. Are you ready to, gotcha, are you ready to shine?
Yes, Michael, I am. I'm really delighted, as you can see, and glad to be diving into all those topics.
Woohoo! All right, so before we dive right into things, and people can listen to our past interview to get the full story on you, Loch. But before we dive right into things, I struggled with ADD myself, and at the time, undiagnosed dyslexia. Thank God for typewriters. They really saved my butt growing up, and that dates me, typewriters. How did mindfulness help you?
Yes, so I can tell a little story. That I had, like you, dyslexia and some form of ADD. So I knew I was getting what was being said, but it was hard for me to put it on paper or stay focused. But when I played sports, I found it was a little easier, and music were two things that seemed to be easier. Mm-hmm. And at 14, I heard on TV a sportscaster say about a quarterback, he's got eyes in the back of his head. And I thought at 14, he's got eyes in the back of my head. Let me see if I can do that. And I literally played with it. First, I thought it was visual. Then I found a way to open my awareness around so that my peripheral vision would open. And then it felt as if I had this panoramic 360-degree field of awareness that opened. And then it felt like I dropped into my body. And what it was I discovered is a way to intentionally drop into the zone or into what's called a flow state. And then the interesting thing is I wasn't trying to focus from my small mini me mind, this little thought-based point of view, but I had shifted into a kind of panoramic, spacious mind. And from there, I could focus effortlessly on anything I was doing.
So that's fascinating, and I want to take that to trail running, where I'm a decent trail runner. Okay. Yet I occasionally catch, particularly my right foot. I think it has to do. I've got all these titanium parts, titanium hips, titanium femurs, but I somewhat run like the wind. But I have to be extra present.
Yes.
When I'm running on the trails. But what you're describing, I haven't tried it, is a way of, in sense, stepping out of myself so that I see the whole thing without my small mind struggling to focus on each rock.
That's right. And the key is, so there's, in traditional meditation, it's interesting that usually the first preliminary practice is often using the small mind to focus on one object, like your breath or a candle or something like that. And that's kind of trying to do the best you can with the small mind. The next instruction often is to witness contents of consciousness, like thinking, coming and going. And that creates a kind of witness from a bigger point of view. But what we're doing, or what I discovered and share what's called effortless mindfulness, is to open even further, almost like we're trying to focus from a cloud, and you open beyond the cloud into the sky, and then you actually feel like you're aware from the sky, but you could stop there to kind of have a big sky witness, but the feeling is to have that spacious awareness feel back into the cloud, and then it connects to the trail you're running on or to whatever you're focusing on, as if you're almost interconnected with it. And it sounds, kind of esoteric, but it literally is learnable and teachable way to shift.
So we're going to dive more into that, and it's fascinating because I do teach a mindfulness running program, but what I'm teaching is deliberate mindfulness. So that's still coming from the small mind,
Yeah.
and I call that running in HD, in high definition, like an HD TV. You're talking about running more of holographic from the whole. You are the trail. You are the everything. So what's that? Oh, I'm forgetting his name, from a beautiful monk from New York City. He had jokes about "I'll have one with everything."
Lama Surya Das.
Thank you. Yes, you're talking about the Lama Surya Das version of running.
Yeah, that's it.
So when you're playing, when you're out there, and you got eyes in the back of your head.
Yes.
Not only did that shift your awareness, but in no other way to put it, that had to blow your mind and be a complete game changer in the path of your life.
Absolutely, yeah. It took me into a place where I didn't feel like I had to struggle all the time with ADD or dyslexia, or what most of us struggle with, which is just trying to keep it together or stay in control or deal with anxiety or fears or positive thinking or trying to keep everything together and do the best I can. It literally shifted me into this something greater than myself that was essentially who I was, that was already naturally calm and interconnected, as if I felt supported, and yet kind of just ordinary me without all the chattering mind and small separate sense of self. So it felt like I was in a flow. So it takes us not just into a kind of a mindful detached witness, but literally as if we're the ocean of awareness, and everything that's arising are these waves of who we are. And it sounds a little trippy, but it actually feels like, oh yeah, right. This is moments that everyone, I believe, has experienced at their happiest times, whether they're gardening or running or playing in the ocean or doing something they love, but they don't know how to get back to it, and they don't know that it actually is who they truly are, not just a result of a activity.
I like that you said, thank you for sharing. I like that you said result of an activity, because and maybe you would agree with me, the challenge with mindfulness today is it is an activity. We're talking about the doing of non-doing here.
Yes, that's right. So, it initially takes a little intention in order to shift into that awareness that's already effortlessly aware. Then from there, there's a natural sense that there's something greater than you that's able to optimally function. So the key in this, you mentioned Lama Surya Das, that this is from kind of advanced practices of wisdom traditions. And one of them is a Tibetan Buddhism. So it actually takes you into where you're not just have to sit on a cushion to experience this kind of multidimensional sense of ease or freedom, but literally, like a flow state, you're optimally functioning. You have a feeling of connection, being in the now. And the key is you're just not orienting by thought or a thinker, that you've kind of dropped or surrendered back into this bigger field. There's a natural trust that then is utilizing all the information from your functioning mind. But the feeling is as if you're not looking at the screen of your mind, as if there's no thoughts that you need to refer to in order to do the next thing and respond.
Awesome. So is there a way, and I like calling this today, you call it effortless mindfulness. I'm liking your term from earlier, the big sky witness.
Okay.
I can see this as a movie already. So is there a way, let's say we're driving down the road
Yes.
that we can start to access the big sky witness?
So, it's interesting that you choose that activity, because when I ask people, and people who are listening can just check this out now, if you like driving, when you drive, you most likely have to shift out of the small one-pointed way of focusing using attention, which you see some people trying to drive from, and you literally have to open into a peripheral vision, into this focus from this interconnected bigger mind, in order to be able to do probably one of the most dangerous activities we do, which is be in a 1-ton vehicle traveling 60 miles an hour while other people are texting. But
so true.
But that feeling, I sometimes ask people, just feel, what is it like when you're driving? Where are you aware from? Because you're not aware from your analytic mind. You're not aware from your really one-pointed focus. You have to open your peripheral vision in order to relax and highly function. So that's a good example of that.
Excellent. What are mindful glimpses?
So mindful glimpse is based on the assumption that this awake consciousness is already installed within us.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we have to deliberately learn, like learning how to play the violin. We don't have to become an Olympic athlete of meditation in order to achieve awakening. That literally there's another operating system that is not thought-based, but is awareness-based. And so a glimpse is a way to immediately shift from one point of view to a more open, spacious, pervasive, interconnected, already awake by itself way of seeing and being. And the glimpse means not that you're having a meditation experience, but you actually have shifted your identity and your way of being.
So if you're watching this right now, let's say you're watching this on YouTube, you can be listening to this as well, but I'm saying you're watching, for example, at the moment.
Sure.
How do we shift our way of being in this moment?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll try. So I'll say as a preface that the some of the vocabulary, some of the first ways of shifting or moving take a little time to learn. Once you learn the basics, it's fairly quick. So there's some way that I can just guide some of you into one way of shifting. But I've also learned that sometimes if I do 10 different ways of shifting, that some people won't get the first 3, they'll get the second 3, or they'll get number 6 and number 4.
Yeah.
So it's learning to actually shift, not from the thinker, not from a doer, not from an efforter, not from will, not from ego, but literally, this is the strange premise, is that if I say, can you unhook your awareness from thought and have it drop down to know your throat from within, and then drop from head to know from your heart mind, that what is shifting is actually your awake consciousness. So I'm actually talking to you, the already awake being, and I'm asking your awareness that's both spacious and local to move itself and step out of identification or attachment with this habit or this point of view, which is really the only obstacle, is a certain habit that we've learned developmentally, culturally, mentally, in order to function. Shift out of that into So this first glimpse will be, shifting from head to heart, mind. So it's not just emotional heart, it literally is what's called heart mind. So I'll tell a little story and then we'll do it. Is that when the first researchers in neuroscience were studying meditation of this.
And so I want to talk now about neuroscience and mindfulness.
Okay.
And what can you tell us about what researchers are finding, the latest neuroscience and mindfulness?
Yes. So there's a couple things. One is interesting that in terms of neuroscience, they've discovered that there's something called the default network in the brain. Mm-hmm. So what this is basically two networks that alternate in everyone. And what they do is simply look out to see what's going on outside, and then the next network looks in. And they just keep alternating. And this is why we get distracted.
Yeah.
So it's one of the main reasons why, I'm trying to focus on something outside, and now I'm lost in daydream or thought. And it's just because one network comes on and goes in. And then, so the research actually that I participated in as a subject was to do one-pointed focus, and then to do observation of internal contents, which is called the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which is watching your thoughts, feelings, sensations, and mind objects. And then the third one was to do this effortless mindfulness, which is looking from the awareness that can look inside and out. And so what they found is when you look at one-pointed attention, like your breath, you actually turn on the task mode network, which is external, and you repress your inner half of your brain. So you repress the ability to be aware of what's going on inside. And what that does is by stopping the alternating, you feel calm. But then as soon as you get up off the cushion, you will go back to the other alternating mode.
And I heard the word suppression in there.
Yes,
that's
right.
And my intuitive sense is that which we resist persists. Anything that we push down,
that's right,
comes back almost, it springs back almost tenfold over time.
That's right. So it'll be a little rebellious about it. And then the second practice, which is the mindfulness of contents, if you just look inward, you're actually repressing the external mode. So again, you're sitting on a cushion, you can feel calm, you can feel free, but as soon as you come out, you have to be able to be aware of internal and external. So it starts back again. And so what you've done is just kind of calmed your ego for a certain amount of time or gained an insight. The third one, the effortless mindfulness, you open to the spacious awareness, you're aware from it, from outside and within. And what it does is it balances. So you're actually able to be aware of what's going on inside and outside simultaneously.
Yeah.
And the feeling that's reported, oh, I'm connected to everything. As if, oh, there's neither inside nor outside, or, oh, well, I'm like an ocean of awareness that's arising as this body, but then it's also connected and different than the other person in front of me who's unique, but there's some connection. And so there's a feeling of this peace of mind that they've discovered that this one particular kind of advanced meditation brings about intentionally.
So, and if we look at EEG signals, so there was a study in 2018 that was looking at this, and what I found fascinating is it's not that just you're in like a theta state, more of a highly creative state, a quieter state of mind, but there's some gamma waves at play. What's going on here?
Yes, so that's a great study. There's a couple of studies that were done recently using EEG, which is another instrument, and they found that it's not just a theta relaxed, and it's not just moving from beta, which is fast moving, to alpha, which deliberate mindfulness will bring you from beta to alpha. So you'll be calm, you'll be more able to kind of focus, but doing this kind of meditation, effortless mindfulness, brings on what's called synchronized gamma. And synchronized gamma is almost like aha moments, or what I call sometimes like continuous intuition. And the feeling is almost like you're happy and you're creative, and it feels like everything is new. So sometimes I say it feels like you're a kid on the first day of summer vacation.
Yeah.
So you just feel like, oh, well, we can do anything. Oh, what are we going to do? We can do this. This is cool. And then you're ready to respond because your brain is actually not just relaxed, but you're in the heightened, optimal, but balanced mode.
And so what do you believe, and particularly effortless mindfulness, because you talked about if deliberate mindfulness, it doesn't necessarily have the stick when we get, I'll call it off of the cushion or out of the activity.
Yes,
what do you believe, if we were to look at the brain, is going on long term by doing effortless meditation or big sky awareness?
Yeah. So the thing about the big sky is that it's got to be sky and embodied.
Yes.
So it's got to feel like it's the first move is sky, and then there's got to be like a unitive consciousness too. So there's a feeling of.
I'll pause you there because oftentimes you have meditators, you have practitioners, you have, I'll put it in quotes, spiritual people who end up being spun.
That's right.
Because they go up but don't go down. And so they're not rooted, and we are here to be incarnate.
That's right. So that's what I call the witness protection program. So that's what, when people feel like, oh, I'm now the big sky, and now I'm going to stay up here in this kind of detached witness, and I'm free of that fast-moving, chattering mind, but I'm also not fully human. So it is kind of a halfway stage of meditation that some people say is the end stage, but in my experience, I prefer coming back while remaining open. So that shows up on the EEG and the fMRI as being embodied and balanced. And the other signature is that the parietal lobes, which are very fast part of the brain that orient us in time and space and make us feel physically separate, so that we can, see a tiger and we can run to a tree. They relax and you feel spacious and interconnected. You still feel physically here, but not as tight.
Beautiful. So let's go from there. And now let's talk about some techniques that we can dive in. And first one that fascinated me, what's the exercise Eyes of Awareness?
Yeah. So this one is called, returning the eyes to their natural state and this panoramic awareness. So there's a few pointers. So the first pointer is that our seeing is often very attached to our grasping mind, whereas something like hearing, for most people, is pretty much naturally biologically experienced. So if I asked people who are listening, if you're hearing sound, if you hear a bell or me talking, does it feel like the sound is coming from a speaker traveling through the air and that you're receiving? So hearing is receiving. That's pretty much what it feels like.
Well, yeah. Although what you got me thinking of is a Tibetan singing bowl.
Yeah.
And not where I'm ringing the side of it, but where I run the, I don't know what we call it, the felt drum thingy. There's the official term. And you cannot detect where that sound starts and where it ends.
Right. So that's kind of going from the typical normal to kind of filling the space with energy. Mm-hmm. So then once the space is resonating, now the bowl is bouncing off the wall and coming back and bouncing off your body, and it's continuous. But in a normal sense, hearing is receiving, a sound comes and travels through, whereas seeing, if I were to say, if anyone just like look at an object in the room or my finger, now look at another object, now look at another object, and the feeling is almost seeing is like your hand goes out to see, as if I'm looking at this object. So in biological terms, the seeing is the same as hearing. Light reflects off of objects and comes to your eyes. So seeing is receiving.
Yeah.
So just let that be kind of a pointer. And what that does is it can kind of unhook seeing from the grasping mind. And notice that you're just as safe because light is traveling at the speed of light. So you don't have to be safe by trying to like, what's that? What's that? You can just stay like a Tai Chi master. That's how they train, to be open and receiving. And then the next thing is just to let your eyes just kind of rest softly and float. And then we're just going to open awareness around. And at first you'll feel peripheral vision open. So you could be listening or watching this one. So as your awareness moves around and your peripheral vision open, just notice that your eyes are not moving in order to open peripheral vision. It's actually awareness that opens, and your brain and your awareness begin to include more on the side. So just gently start to let your awareness open to the sides and feel as if awareness is moving itself. So feel as if awareness is somehow opening to each side. And as it does, notice the effect on this feeling of openness, peripheral vision opening. You can breathe in the cool air and smile. Feel a sense of opening your view and safety. And then as awareness gets to the side, let go of seeing and become interested in the space on the side of your body in which sound is coming and going. And then somehow awareness continues around to be aware of the space behind you in which sound is coming and going. So it feels as if somehow awareness is aware in front, to the left, to the right, above, below, and behind, so that you've opened your view. So feel this open view, this feeling of being aware of spacious awareness, and then curiously ask, am I aware of the spacious awareness, or what's it like when I'm aware from the spacious awareness? Back to include thoughts, feelings, and sensations. So just feel that openness that you're aware of, and then you're aware from, that includes the energetic dance, that's equally aware outside and inside, as if there's a spacious, pervasive field of awareness that's happening by itself, that's equally inside and out, that's just naturally allowing everything to be as it is, that has more capacity to be with emotions, and that just doesn't form a manager in your body. So what's that like to not have to orient to thought, to be alert and aware? And then just notice, if you're not aware from the center of your head, where are you aware from? So just feel this sense when you look with awareness, to feel what it's like to be aware from everywhere and here. What's that like when you're equally aware inside and out? So you're not too spacey, and you're not re-identified with your body only. Just feel that open-hearted view. It's almost as if you've dropped from head to heart and are interconnected.
Beautiful. Let's go from there, and I'm thinking of, I used to do a lot of research on running and mindfulness, as we talked about earlier. And there's in Tibet, there were ancient monks who were messengers called the Longompa runners. also known as, in a sense, the breath runners.
Mm.
And there's a story of, in the 1920s or 30s, there's a car driving along on the high plains of Tibet, and they actually glimpse a Lungompa running along. And they said, don't get too close to him. If you do, he will fall and he will die. And that wasn't meaning that he would trip and fall, but he would come out of his state of consciousness that he was in, because they're using something similar to what you describe in the book as skygazing, connecting to the heavens to run. What's skygazing? What do you think he was doing?
Yeah, so I mean, what he's doing is he's shifting not only his view of the most spacious dimension, but then he's connecting to this almost energetic field that's kind of almost like the ocean, buoying him up and carrying him along. So it's, you could call it chi. Some, Chinese would call it, connecting to the inner chi and then the outer chi, so that you get carried along. So you're not using your muscles or your mind, and you can just enter another dimension of consciousness.
Beautiful. Speaking of another dimension of consciousness, what's Om Sweet Om?
So Om Sweet Om is using similarly, for some people, they do, they're more observing types, so they observe from the sky, and other people are more inner types. So if we drop from head to heart and use the vibration of our body by making a sound like Om from the heart mind, it can help us drop from the movement of thought to a more essential feeling of So if you use it as a way to unhook awareness and have it return home, then it becomes the new home.
Excellent. So let's shift gears from there. Let's talk about the new home. Let's talk about getting back into the body so that we can heal our body and reduce pain. Actually, what happened to yourself when you're on a sled? I think it was with a nephew, and there was a oops moment.
Yes. So that was about this. One of the chapters in this book is called Effortless Mindfulness, Pain Relief. So it's a different approach to relieving chronic pain or temporary pain. So when I was with my nephew, I was riding down a sled, and he was playing this game where he would stay near the bottom, and then he would jump on in the air as I was coming down, and I'd catch him, and then we'd go down together. And so one time he jumped a little much to the right, and so as I caught him, I wrenched my sciatic nerve and my back, and just felt like, oh no, what's happened? So I thought it would heal, and a week goes by, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Then I go to the doctor, and the doctor, who happened to be a recent president of the AMA, said to me, oh, that'll never get better. I've had that since the Korean War, and you just
talk
have
about
to
a nocebo effect.
That's right. So I figured I'd have to try other things. So I tried other things, acupuncture, other alternative, and get a little better, different stretching. And then I thought, okay, well, you know what? When I do this effortless mindfulness, what was chattering thoughts and mental pain kind of goes into the background and is being taken care of by a bigger source. So let me realize what pain is, which is a signal coming from that place, kind of in a negative way, just saying, check this out, check this out, check this out, as if it's making a continuous phone call saying, are you sure there's not a knife in your back? Are you sure there's not a knife in your back? You better check it out. You better look. And it sends it immediate and negative because it's concerned. It's just a biological phone call that's being made just because there's something, the nerve is being impinged on. So what I did is I said, okay, well, let's unhook awareness take the operator of the intelligence down directly and look into the space between the atoms, and look to see that there's not a knife, that it is just the wiring that's kind of a little, twisted, and there's actually no threat, and it's been checked out, and then just let the awareness continue down into that space, and then have the signal be sent to the big sky mind. So then the signal wasn't going up here, it was going to voicemail, and the pain signal would, just like thinking, go into the background. And so it went from about an 8 to 1 or 2 immediately. And then there's just like a little soreness that, just feels like there's something going on there, so I don't sit on it or I don't bump into something. But the immediate pain signal is changed. And so now I've had hundreds of people report that this is kind of a physical pain reduction technique.
How's your pain in the back now?
It's not even there. Now it's just like a 0. Yeah.
What I like is it reminds me of EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping, because there's pain and then there's the feedback loop.
Right.
And what you're doing is removing the feedback loop, removing yourself from the pain. Then what's there, the body can more easily deal with that if it's not overwhelmed.
Right.
At that point.
Yes. And then and that's similar to kind of the deliberate mindfulness of pain. You take the one who's reacting to it away, and it reduces it. But they usually find that it reduces it with deliberate mindfulness like an 8 to a 6.
Yeah.
Because it's still in the body. It's still in. There's not a reactor, but there's still kind of the body's trying to deal with it. And this is like opening it to the bigger body, which is the spacious, interconnected body and intelligence that goes beyond the, just the limited body mind.
Beautiful. Since we're going beyond the limited body mind, we're kind of going open-hearted here. What's the practice of the cave of the heart?
Yes. So the cave of the heart, there's a couple practices related to the heart. So one of the main things is shifting from head to more fully embodied. And when awareness drops, people report that they can actually feel their body from within.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, I've had ballerinas, yoga teachers, athletes say, who are supposedly very embodied, when they drop and feel their body from within, because they're not feeling it from their head and trying to make it strong and feel balanced and strong, but literally they allow the intelligence. They say, oh my God, I've felt my body for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my body. I'm not like using my body like a strong tool, that's dangling from below my neck. So when we drop,
and that's such a non-Western concept, because we have such an idea of the head drives the body.
That's right. And so two things about that. One is, books by Daniel Siegel, who's a neuroscientist and a physicist, who says that, from looking at the nervous system, that the intelligence of our mind is not in our head, it's in our whole body.
Yeah.
And the other story is that when the first researcher, Herbert Benson, went to Tibet to study the monks there and their meditation, he brought these huge suitcases of EEG machines, and he had this helmet EEG, which some of you have seen, with the white little electrodes, but at that time it had all these wires coming out of it. And so he gave a talk to the monks and asked them if they would be open to, and they were very, saying, yes, of course we will. And then as soon as he said, here's what we're going to do, we're going to put this on your head and we're going to measure, and they all started giggling. And there was like, the head monk was like, well, I've never seen them giggle like this. That's very rude. What are they like? And they just couldn't help themselves. And so they said, well, what's so funny?
Mm-hmm.
They said, what are you doing looking here? Here's where we meditate. The experience of the meditation's in the heart. And so literally that experience that there's this heart mind, or open-hearted awareness is what I call it, is where the new center is. And it's not the emotional heart. It's not the physical heart. It's not the heart chakra. It literally is like this door that touches each of those. It touches the emotional heart, touches physical, touches heart chakra, and it touches what's called the cave of the heart, which is a kind of deep resting place. But it is intelligence that's that has an opportunity to be the new center.
How do we then drop ourselves down? Is it again following that awareness down into the heart?
So here's the key to this particular type of unique way of doing effortless mindfulness, is that what is moving, what is unhooking, what is dropping is not the efforter, is not the ego, is not attention, is not will. It is literally the awake local awareness that becomes the foundation of who you are. So what we'll do is, when I ask those who are listening to simply notice that the normal pattern is this small listener that's trying to hear and understand my words, and the feeling of it is it's this thought loop pattern that's going to emotion and thought that feels like it's behind your eyes, looking out of your eyes. And we're going to unhook awareness, have it step back, and then drop to feel your throat from within your throat, your upper body from within your upper body, and then relocate so you literally feel as if you're aware of your heart and from your heart space. So simply just feeling this sense of the hearer or the thinker or the ego center that's listening and trying to understand, and then see whether awareness that's inherent within this can simply unhook and step back. Just notice the relief and the spacious awareness of the sky. And then feel as if that intelligence of awareness can drop and know your throat directly from within your throat. So notice you don't have to look up to thought to know and feel. You don't have to stretch attention down. Just feel the space, the effervescent aliveness, and the awareness directly from your throat. And then feel as if this awareness can move itself as it drops below your neck into your upper body. So just feel the relief and the dropping of awareness so that you know and feel your upper body directly from your upper body. And just notice what it's like to be aware and embodied without orienting by thought. And then find this heart space, this heart mind, this heart door that is a centerless center, deep within your atoms, that's aware and awake. And then feel as if you're aware of this, and from here, from this heart space, aware of everything, almost as if your heart is boundless and interconnected with everything. And then just curiously, let your phone number arise in your heart mind. And then let it go. Just notice that feeling, that new feeling of peace of mind, open-hearted awareness that doesn't have to associate, but can know when needed. So feel that view from your heart space and start to include all your senses equally, so you have equal rights for all senses, so that as you're aware of taste and smell, hearing, sensing, and thought coming and going, and then as your eyes open, just let them be soft and kind of in the background, so that your centerless center remains, doesn't pop up to your eyes, almost like you're seeing through the eyes of your heart or feeling, and just ending by doing an Om. So you feel consciously and physically centered, and you're recentered.
Very cool. Thank you so much. What are top 3 tips you would give people to get into this place?
Yeah. So in some ways, it's really to learn the feel of this local awareness as the tuner. So that's kind of the first new thing. That's a new habit. And once you learn that, it starts to open all these doors to intentionally being able to shift rather than thinking and trying and efforting and intellectually moving things around. So that would be the main thing, is to kind of learn how to shift awareness through getting a feel of what local awareness is. And, that's the kind of thing I have in my book. And, there's also some YouTubes that you can look at that are, kind of go through step by step how to do this. And then knowing kind of where to shift, that when you shift the local awareness, you're not just waking up from thought, that the awareness then has to wake into beyond conditioning, beyond thought, into its most pure aware form of the sky. And then the third tip is, don't forget to come back to being a human.
Woohoo! On that note, where can people go to find out more and to find your beautiful book?
Yes. So, you can go to any kind of online bookstore or website, and you can go to my website, which has a little description of the book and has some free gifts and videos and audios on the book page. So my website's lochkelly.org, which is LOCHKELLY.org. And there's books and there's events there. I teach, all over the country. I'd love to see any of you who even teach in Aspen, where Michael is. But I'll be in Europe, I'll be in Italy, I'll be in East Coast, West Coast for the next 6 months or so.
Excellent. And so if you didn't catch Loch Kelly, LOCHKELLY.org, come on over to inspirenationshow.com. We'll get you over to lochkelly.org. Any last words of wisdom you want to share with people, Loch?
So I would say that the words of wisdom are that I absolutely am convinced, after these last 20 years of being open-minded and open-hearted and seeing what's true, that awakening is possible for you. Awakening is possible for the average person in the midst of our everyday life, that the awakening is already installed, and we can learn. It's learnable, it's teachable, and it brings such great joy and such relief of suffering and so much potential of compassionate activity to help the world, that it's really a revolution that I hope will be shared by many people, and that we all will gather together in kind of awakened consciousness and enjoy helping our planet and helping each other.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Loch. Appreciated this so much. And I want everybody to go out and practice getting outside of themselves while being inside of themselves, and effortlessly to boot. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the way of effortless mindfulness, and begin effortlessly finding more peace today, and shine bright. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Awesome. Thank you so much, Loch.
Yes, thank you, Michael. That was great fun.
I just had an amazing time talking with Loch Kelly. To find out more about how mindfulness can bring you into the bliss, click here, subscribe below.